Off we go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, if I could do an introductory bit of a chat, I'm going to walk through my Moodle page, and I won't be doing that for long, maybe 10 minutes, and then come back with all your comments and questions, okay?
Yep.
So looking for screen share. So you can now see my screen, can't you?
Yep.
I see some nods, I hope. Yeah, good. So this is 522, but the content is just like 322. The reason for these photos is my quirky sense of humor and my means of communication, or one of my methods of communication. That's visual. So at the moment, you might be feeling like this. You're an airplane covered in snow on an airfield in a blizzard, and you can't see anything, and there's certainly no clearance for takeoff. In this subject, you're bound. You might be stuck on an airfield, parked up just like in COVID-19 airfields are around the world. But you're just blanketed. It's just all peaceful and quiet, and you can't find any way up or down. In a little while, I'm hoping you're going to feel like that. A brand spanking new shiny aircraft ready for takeoff, and the runway cleared, and you know where you're going. You've got fuel in your tank. The sun is shining. Yes, there's been some snow, but hey, that's all now behind you, and off we go. That's my dream for you, okay? That's where we'll get to in not too distant future. If you go to these tiles, now personally, I don't like tiles, but that's what the college want us to use because they're suitable for people looking at their work on mobile phones, which I don't. My mobile phone is somewhat geriatric and doesn't get the internet. So what I tend to do for me is I put on editing, which means that I can then scroll down through my Moodle page and ignore those, but I just wander through the content in a long line, which will be convenient for me to talk to you about what's there. So on this first bit, the subject outline is the most crucial piece. That's the official accredited document. And if in doubt, that's the official information. It says 2017 because that's when it was last updated. It's not that it's out of date. It is as it is. It is. We are actually having our MTP, MTS reaccredited as we speak, and before long there will be a new subject outline, but it will be only tweaked a little bit, nothing substantial. Rest of all this is generic. You'll find it on every Moodle page. Introductory resources. Now, for the purposes of this subject, as I said on my post to you recently, Fred Corthigan, core reflection approach. You don't have to learn his approach, but I highly commend to you getting your head into what is reflection and becoming a reflective teacher. Yes, it's long, so if you feel like watching all of it, cool. If you don't, skip it. When you see a 3-star at the end of something, I'm basically saying it's a good thing. You definitely need to have a look at 3 stars. You might have a look at 2 stars. If it's not, it's up to you entirely. So you'll notice down here, I've got Wenger, who's a Swiss bloke, lives in California, and he was born in the same year as me, as it happened. Anyway, I have the hugest respect for Etienne Wenger, and I interviewed him last year for one of our PD days in AC, and that's what that is. So I highly commend to you anything written by or said by Etienne Wenger. Please get in there. Now, a bit of a word about Ian Jagelman. Ian Jagelman, as some of you may know, one or two of you may know, he used to be the head of leadership at Alpha College, but he's now retired. He put this course together when it was in theology. And over the last 10 years, I took it over in 2011. I converted his subject into our education subject. So there's still some good material that he had on there. So if you happen to like that stuff, go for it. There's interesting material, but I won't be referring to. These are some old videos from the relative recent past. I commend them to you, but again, certainly nothing obligatory. A 3-star is obviously a good one. I'll chat to you about the assignments shortly. The personal journal, the minor essay, major essay. Now, this one here, integrity and transformational leadership, is a topic of mine, which I put together a few years ago. This is my PowerPoint, 27 slides. Notice I haven't got a 3-star on it. It's not a has to. It might be something that intrigues you, inspires you, I hope. It's something for you to dip into if you so wish. It doesn't have any direct bearing on any of the assignments. Therefore, I wouldn't worry unless you're particularly intrigued to have a little look in there. I love this notion of transformational leadership and its connection with integrity. I just find those concepts are so essential for you as teachers, because you're a leader. As soon as you're a teacher, you're a leader. And therefore, don't say, oh, that's to do with deputies and principals, and I'm not one of them. Well, you might not be yet, but who knows? So I hope you get that. How leaders learn. Now, that's my PowerPoint, 2019. This is from Jenny Bickmore Brand, material that predates me. It's, again, for you to explore if you wish. But this is not a has to. You might find it helpful. The subject used to be called 424. That's why that's there. Now, this is material from 2011. Intensive. So that's way back. So, again, this is for you to wander through, have a look at if you so desire. Nothing obligatory at all. Education readings. Now, you will find these useful, and you will be realizing not too distant future that Palmer is ever so important to me. Ever so important to me, Mr. Parker Palmer. Now, this one here, normally when I do an intensive, I set up these 2 PowerPoints, the Willard and Freeze. Now, when I've finished this rant talking to you, I want to talk to you about Willard and Freeze. Fraze, sorry. As I say, when we've had an intensive, I've gone through these and it's taken 3.5, 4 days to do that. 13 slides there, 21 here. Uh, I don't know how we're going to go about this. I feel that you're well able to go through these PowerPoints yourself in your own time. Do you to get tested on them? No. Are they going to be inspirational? I believe so. But let's talk about that in a few minutes. Ken Robinson is one of my favorites, as I hope you'll be getting to notice, but that's a 2-star here. These are some work from previous students that I posted on here. You might find dipping into them helpful. And there we go. So that's an overview of the content. A few words about the assignments, and now we'll open it up and have a chat. Now, it's fair to say that this subject is normally taken by students towards the end of their course. And I know we've got people who are not at the end of the course. So one of the things I say in the first semester to everybody is get a personal journal goal. It's going to be of value to you in many of your subjects. So if you are coming to the end of your course, as some of you are, then I'm trusting you will have got a personal journal going, which is education based. So this is entirely something that I'm hoping, praying becomes a life habit for you. And from your journal, you make a selection of 1,500 words, random, entirely up to you. You know, if I was in your boat, I wouldn't be selecting most personal stuff because that's incredibly personal. And by the way, you're sharing this with me. You're not sharing it with anybody else. It's not going to the rest of the class. So an effective journal should be kept throughout the duration of the subject. It's a great habit to develop if you've not already got one established. Please ensure you number the pages and log the dates. Your journal will be an invaluable resource for other assessments in EDU322 and beyond, as in all your other subjects in your degree. And you're welcome to quote your own journal. So you quote the date, you quote the page number, and that's how you put that in your APA 6 at the end. So, but for this assignment, and it's only worth 10%, you randomly make a selection. It will be assessed as a standard paper, so it needs an official cover sheet, but it is understood that this is a highly personal document and as such does not require conventional use of supporting text and references. So doesn't require that. Nevertheless, it is expected you will make some reference to key texts and that have influenced your thinking and perspective. So what I'm saying there is I would be really surprised if in your journal you're not referring to the Bible, if you're not referring to key writers that have really influenced you. But it might be one or most two in your selection. So it's not a massive big deal. So, and again, it's only 10%. So I expect you to add a couple of references at the end, just to show that you can. And these things here give you some heads up on how to write reflectively, and a reflective practice from the UK as an example there for 4 minutes. This is handed in right at the end of the term, so there's no rush. It's something that I suppose it sums up your journey as a self-reflective educator. What's going on in your heart, in your mind your resilience is, if you like, it could be a reflection on this assignment, this assignment. It's up to you. There's no hard and fast. I'm nearly done. Minor essay. Interview one educator of your choice with a religious worldview, not necessarily
Excuse
Christian.
me, Dr. Jim.
Yes, go.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So I'm doing the secondary thing, but I was wondering, can I interview a primary teacher or does it need to be a secondary one?
Either. I think one educator of your choice. I had a question earlier about whether they have to be teaching. And I said to somebody, no, if they're retired, that's fine. So if you're going to be a secondary teacher and the interviewee is talking about how they manage kindy all the time, then I would suspect it wouldn't be a very good interview for you.
Okay.
But if it's somebody that has wrestled with the challenges of teaching and can coherently talk with you about that, that would be great.
Okay.
So, don't get sucked down a rabbit hole of preschool if you're going to be a high school teacher. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So interview one, education of your choice. They've got to have a worldview and ideally able to articulate their worldview. Purpose of understanding their belief and major doctrines determine how their spiritual journey and belief system have influenced them as educators. So if you're interviewing somebody who's really their worldview is secularism, they may have a very different, which isn't necessarily bad, but it might be a very different worldview to yours. And we'll unpack this in much greater detail. We're not doing it all now. I'm just giving you an overview. So basically, be now thinking about an educator that can inspire you as to how they've wrestled with their beliefs, how that's influenced their work as a teacher. Describe your impressions. What has impacted you from this discussion? That's a key word. What's impacted you? Noting any differences from your own belief system. A transcript of the interview must be submitted, although it's not part of the word count. You stick it at the end of your assignment, all in the same file. Now, I noticed yesterday, because I was working with Heidi, there isn't a rubric for this assignment, but there are graduate teacher attributes, which will give you a good leg up in terms of what is being required in this essay. But we're going to come back to this many times anon. So interview is the minor. When's it due? End of May.
Jim, sorry, quickly, the 322 one says it's due the 28th of June, the same day as the major. Is that correct?
Don't know. We must.
Okay.
I think that's a boo-boo.
Okay, all good.
So I would suspect this interview ought to be now, 31st of May. But we'll come back to that, thanks, Tara. The major essay. Now, this is the biggie. 60,000. What? Sorry, 60%. Don't die, people out there. In the masters, it's 60. I think in the bachelors, it might be 50. Reflect on your own emotional, spiritual journey as an educator. Now, often people start this essay by, if you like, highlighting when it was they realized they were going to be a teacher, or who it was who tapped them on the shoulder and said, how about? So you might have massive memories of you teaching your siblings in a play school type of setting, in which case that would be relevant. With reference to the materials presented in this subject and from outside sources, examine your character construct. As in, it's fancy language, I'm sorry about that. That simply means examine your character. personality profile and traits. And yes, there are tools for that on this Moodle page, but you can find your own as well if you wish. Your interpersonal and communication skills. That's important. We're going to come back to that. How easily do you communicate with others in the staff room in the school? So these are all factors that are going to impact how you're going to survive as a teacher. In the light of the above, reflecting on your learning institutions and communities known to you, your content, consider the likely challenges, which may not be, but there might be, by educators throughout their careers. So the likely challenges that are going to impact you. Discuss their impact on other staff. Discuss their impact on other staff, the students, and students' parents. So if you've got particular challenges that you're aware of, how may they be impacting staff around you? How may they impact your students, and how may they impact parents of your students? Suggest management and coping strategies diminish the impact on educators' view of any potential challenges. Although this is a reflective socio-psychological paper in the educational context, ensure to include appropriate references to the literature. That's a funky sentence, I must confess. Basically, it's very personal, lots of I. It's your story. I remember one particular student writing to me who was born in Tibet, up in the Himalayas, and this person wrote about a world I had no concept of, and how growing up there led them eventually to Sydney, Australia, training to be a teacher. It was absolutely a privilege to read this essay. It's something, it would be honest, I'll be honest with you, it's one of the highlights of my career as a teacher in AC to read this assignment, because it is absolutely stunning to read people's stories. So moving. And that's what I want you to do. I want you to be able to articulate your story and build in resilience so that when you're out there, you don't become a casualty after 3 years. So enough of me. I'm going to shut up now and do something with my view. There we go. So you'll need to unmute yourself when you want to say something. So shoot.
Jim?
Tara. Oh. Don't go away. Hello? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on the Zoom at the moment. Finish about 10. Okay. So sorry. God bless. Bye. Sorry, I had to take that. I don't know people's numbers, and it doesn't tell me on the phone. Where were we? Tara. Who was it, Tara?
Heidi was going to say something first.
Yeah, go. Go, Tara. Oh, Heidi was first, was she? Don't argue about it. Heidi.
Fine.
I'm just checking that you've said that the challenges are not theoretical challenges, but they're challenges that you expect to have happen due to the identified character, profile, personality, communication things. They're challenges directly related and out of that, not generic, these might happen one day.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The wording here isn't the best, but you've hit the nail on the head there, Heidi.
I was going to comment on that. Yeah, the wording should change so it's more. There's more of the subjects involved, like your experience, your your proposed challenges rather than just on educators' challenges.
Yeah, you're dead right. It is you. It's your journey. And going back to you, Heidi, I would not say to you, think too much about about this essay yet. Spend some time digging into the material on this Moodle page. Focus on the interview for May, and let this marinate, as it were, throughout the month of May, so that when you get to June, you write it.
But this one makes sense, so I can actually deal with this one at the moment, whereas the other two are far more random and aren't making as much sense. And if I can get this one structured, then, and I know what because I need to know what it means so that I can glean the information out of actually looking at the resources. If I just look at the resources, I don't know what I'm looking for. I need to understand the assessment tasks to know the information I need to take out of them, out of the readings and that, to do the tasks.
Sure.
This one makes no sense than either of the other two. And is there, yeah.
Yeah, I understand that. That's very logical.
Yep.
I want you to go away after this morning session, clear in your head what the major essay is about.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go away thinking, oh man, that was an hour and I still don't know. So I want a thumbs up from you.
The major essay is the least of my worries. Like that one, now that I know that it's actual challenges from the other things, I can deal with that.
Okay. So if I may just underline on the major essay, on that post I gave to you all, and in fact, many of you, if not all, responded with their greatest fear. So, for example, I think the most common fear that was posted was fear of burnout. Now, that is a shock. It is a recognition of the fact that teaching is a highly demanding profession, highly demanding. And it underlines for me, and Heidi, if I can put this on your plate, as it were, and I'm not saying it, I can't remember who said what, if it was you or anybody who said fear of burnout was going to be an issue, then I would say you need to really research coping mechanisms that will build in resilience so that you won't ever get to burnout. You'll have people, for example, mentors or mentor around you who can keep your temperature measured on a regular basis so that if there's any sign that you're drifting in that direction, they will blow the whistle and say, time out. So that's a very crude little scenario for how you might build in effective management coping strategies to diminish the impact on you of the potential of burnout. Anything else on the major essay while we hear from anybody? Okay.
Is that, sorry?
Yeah.
Sorry, delay in unmuting myself. Could you maybe just say, like, there's a lot there that you could write about. Could you maybe, like, obviously we're going to have an introduction and we're going to have a conclusion, but could you maybe, from someone who's been marking this, say what are probably the other key sections that you're looking for?
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great heads up. I would say the most effective assignments have been people who've told a story. So it's a narrative. So there's a logic in it that it starts in your early life. It's biographical, and it moves up to the present and looks forward to the future. So that's, you know, you where have you come from? Why are you here? And what have you studied? What have you learned about yourself during this course, during this degree? And what potential areas of challenge have you identified? And then, in fact, one of the really effective sections I recall is towards the end, where people have done a personality profile of themselves. They will then post a paragraph or two of what the official language is from the personality profile about you. Stick it in there, a couple of paragraphs. Don't please put necessarily 2 pages worth of stuff that you've got from the internet, which is impersonal and not relevant to you at all, but key phrases that, yes, that has definitely identified me. And I can hang my hat on that and know what we're talking about here. And then you reflect on those words. When it comes to the end, you're coming up with an effective management and coping strategy, which could be going to the gym once a week. Not that you can now, but you will be able to, I'm trusting, in the near future. Because keeping fit might be your most effective management tool. Whereas, you know, sleep, setting your alarm clock to definitely switch off at 10 o'clock, that you never touch another paper after 10 o'clock and you go to bed. People who are working on their lesson plans and in units of work at 1, 2 in the morning are absolutely mental. And if that's a tendency for you, you better make sure you never get there, because you will not be fit to cope with what's thrown at you on Monday morning. Yes, you'll be prepared, sure, but you'll be so slow at your reaction, you will not catch anything. You'll just, well, actually, you'll catch everything.
So the language in the assessments for this subject are very personal, and our applications are not meant to be highly professional language. You're really looking for, hey, for me to survive as a teacher, I need to have strong boundaries of personal space and plenty of sleep. Like, that's what we're looking for?
Simple as that.
Okay. Cool.
Don't make it complex. It's not, I mean, you're trained. You see, the thing is, there are some educators who are psychologists by training, and they would love to get into all this. Now, I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, or whatever they are. I'm an educator, have been all my life. And what I can see and what my heart is, you are prepared for this role. Self-reflective educator is somebody who's going to survive. And if you don't have coping strategies, mechanisms, you won't. Okay, anything else on the major? Anyone? Okay. Shall we trot down to the minor? Interview one educator of your choice with a religious worldview, whatever their religion, doesn't matter. Who want to kick off with a discussion about the minor, which assume for now we'll confirm for both bachelor and masters is the end of May.
I'd like to kick us off, actually.
Go.
By a transcript, would this mean like manually writing down everything or typing up everything that was said there, or would it be like personal notes taken during the interview from what people said?
Well, Paul, I appreciate your question very much. Literally, it says a transcript.
Okay.
However, I won't have been there. I won't have listened to the interview. So therefore, if you want to write it up in terms of notes, that's fine. And I'm not going to ever criticize. I've never actually, I've noted that they are there. They're submitted. But in fact, in some time past, I don't think I'm doing it now, but in some time past, I actually asked for the transcript to be uploaded to Moodle. I'm not asking for that now. And then people got in a forum and had a chat about it. That's not current. So it's got to be on the end of your essay. Look, seriously, how long should the interview be? Doesn't say, but it's not going to be long.
Yeah.
This is a 30%, 1,800 word little chat you have with somebody.
Yeah.
And you make sure that the crucial thing for you is to write out your questions.
Yeah.
And to identify some really good questions that don't get one-word answers, but get, open-ended discussion. That would be fantastic if you can do that. And to focus the questions on, how would you articulate, how would you describe your belief system? And how has it impacted your teaching career? And if they say, never thought about that, well, that probably won't be a very good person to interview. So you might prime a few people up before you say, yes, I'm going to interview that person, as to whether they can articulate how their faith has impacted their career.
Yeah.
Don't try and choose somebody who's been teaching 2 years. If you can't get anybody else, maybe they could be really brilliant. But I suppose my thinking is, ideally, it's somebody who's got a bit of experience.
Yeah.
Got a few years under their belt, and who've seen a few challenges and come out the other side.
Got ya. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else on the minor?
Yes. So it says to keep the person we interview anonymous.
Yes.
I'm just wondering how we should refer to them when we're writing about them.
Well,
Person
my
X.
simplest way of doing it is to use a pseudonym, and so you refer to them as Jane or John,
Yeah.
and you put in brackets pseudonym.
Okay.
So don't be fancy, the interviewee.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Don't say he, she. Oh, obviously you can say he or she once you've got their name going, but let it be a narrative. It's a little chat of how you reflect on the interview you've had.
And so do we start with like their beliefs and talking about their answers to our questions, and then sort of move on to how that's impacted us and what we think about it?
Yeah, roughly.
Okay.
It would be great, I think, to have two parts there. One is reflection on them and their story, and then how you reflected on the material. I mean, it says here, noting any differences to your own belief systems and how these conversations may influence and shape your own teaching practice in the future. That's a little long, but I think the end is the crucial bit. How it might shape your teaching practice in the future. What I'm saying to you here is, have you wrestled with how faith impacts your teaching? See, when you get busy in the school and the huge demands coming on you, it's curriculum, this, syllabus, that. Have we done this? Have we filled in that? Well, where will faith impact your practice? For me, I suppose what's coming to mind now is my mantra is not really the word, but the only word I can think of at the moment. I've always thought of a tightrope, walking on a tightrope, as my career in teaching. And as soon as I set off after uni, I was stepping out on tightrope. So for me, I had to keep my eye on the goal. Now that's my metaphor, that's my mantra. And the goal was to be obedient to God's will. And all the way through my teaching career, I was a pastor and a teacher. And so all those scriptures that talk about that were crucial to me. And if I lost sight of my pastoral role, my teaching then suffered. So I realized it probably took 5 years to realize that actually I was more than a teacher. I was actually a pastor as well. And then on, that became how my faith has impacted my future. So, you can express your, how faith impacts your career, obviously in your own way. There's no right and wrong. In fact, I would at this point just underline that the content of this course, I would argue, is the smallest of all the subjects you're ever going to do. The application is the biggest of all the subjects you're going to do. Shelley-Ann.
Yeah, it might benefit some other students. I thought that we were going to share the transcript in Moodle, and I may have scared off my retiree that I was going to interview. So just, my enthusiasm may have scared them off. So I didn't get a reply from the retired teacher that I thought I was going to interview, but that's okay.
Does it say anything about that on your Google?
I think it was an old video. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no button here, is there? Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah,
What's
we have
this?
that, and the underlined sentence.
In addition, students are to post their... Oh. Shelley-Ann, you are right.
So I did say, because I said, you're going to be anonymous, but I'm going to share your anonymous transcript with my colleagues. And I didn't get a response.
Look,
But,
ladies and gentlemen, may I do this? I'll do this to the 3221 as well. So as we speak, to be honest, I'm a pragmatist, okay? Has this ever been of any value? No. I can't recall it being of any value. So we've moved it, and I'll move it from the 322 when we're done. Okay?
thanks.
Okay. So the transcript goes at the end of your essay, isn't included in the final word count. Anonymity of the interviewee be expected and respected.
Yep.
Anything else on the minor? Adam G? All cool?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. The only thing I can think of, like from previous interviews that worked really well, is recording the interview on my phone just with an audio recorder, and because I think if you're taking notes, you're sort of left with your own impression of what they're talking about, but if you've got the audio there to play back, I think it just makes it so much more enriching, and there's a lot more to refer back to than sort of just memory of it.
Yeah, Adam, I thank you for underlining that. That's what I would expect. If you're making notes while you're interviewing, you really play with your brain, and you won't focus well on the interviewee at all. You'll be too bothered about what you're writing down, and maybe saying, "Can you repeat that?" It doesn't go well. So obviously make sure that the interviewee knows that you're recording, and assure them absolutely that you'll be deleting it as soon as you finish this assignment. So be upfront. This is what it is. This is why I'm doing it, because I have to make the transcript afterwards. And above all, I'm thinking 15 minutes would be ample. If you go more than that, I think you'll have too much material. 10 to 15, my guess, would be the max. Okay. Anything else on the minor?
So will the 322 be the same date, or you're not too sure?
Yeah, it will. I'm going to look into that, Tara, and sort it out today.
No, that's all good. Cool.
Anything else on minor? Moving on. The personal journey. Now, hands up those of you who are keeping journal. That's about, as far as I can see, maybe half-ish. What is a journal? A journal is, to me, a good, if you're not an avid journaler, then start here. I'm not precious about format at all, because some people will write totally long-handed. Some people will write in dot point. Why shouldn't you write in a mind map format? Mixing words with drawings. There's no limit to how you might reflect. What I would say about reflection is, I do like the idea of a piece of paper with two columns. A left-hand side where you write down the facts of what is the situation, the time, the incident, detail, and then 24 hours later, you have a right-hand column and you reflect on those facts. So if you just write with the one sitting, then I don't think it's anything like as effective as if you come back to the situation and reflect on your reflection. But there's no right and wrong way of doing this. I would just highly encourage you to become, that's what the subject is called, isn't it? Effective educator, self-reflective educator. So if you like, you're going to learn one skill today, or sorry, this term, and that is of journaling.
What are we reflecting on? Like, I can reflect verbally and I can reflect in my head, but I hate writing things down. And I don't have a clue what I'm supposed to be reflecting on. Like, am I reflecting on, say, the tutoring I'm doing? Or am I reflecting on the state of education in the world? What?
No, it's a personal journal. I would say.
But what's supposed to be in it? What's it doing?
Okay. Let me give you a hand.
Yes.
If you're teaching and you're taking a lesson, See, you do journal, even if you don't write it down. I'm sure you do, because it's a human nature thing to do. If you're taking a class and it just goes pear-shaped, and you come out of it thinking, what did I become a teacher for? That was the most stupidest of lessons. What on earth was I thinking? And well, then if you like, take yourself to a quiet place if you can and scribble some notes down. What happened just then? Why was that lesson such a pig's ear? Was it me? Was it the environment? Was it the time of day? Was it the kids? What was it? Brainstorm.
But why
and then
would you write
that's
it
your
down?
reflection on that incident.
Why? A, I'm not in a classroom, and B, why would I write it down? It doesn't. My brain doesn't work that way.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
Obviously at the moment I'm on carers leave, so I'm not trying to be a teacher's aide, but I've worked a lot with one particular child that was on an IEP, so we were required by law to gather evidence for him.
Oh
So
yeah, I've done all that.
Yeah, so that's journal, like that was a paragraph. That was it. Yeah.
But that's evidence, that's facts. This is what happened. This isn't, you weren't supposed to have this is what I was feeling. That didn't go in there.
If I wanted to add how I could have done better or why I thought it worked, then that became personal to me. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You see, Heidi,
I've got 6 years of experience in schools. I've got playgroup. But what am I supposed to be using? How am I supposed to be doing this?
Heidi, you are, as we speak, you're actually reflecting on.
I know, but what do you want written down?
You could write down the challenges you've had. You could use the email you sent me yesterday as your first personal journal, actually, because it is your personal reflection on this subject. All right, you're not in a classroom at the moment. You're doing a course at AC. Reflect on the challenges you face in your training to become a teacher. It's literally as broad as you want to make it. Look, you say you don't write reflections down.
No.
It is a discipline, and it doesn't have to be fancy at all. It doesn't have to be. And I've never. The worst I've ever done in terms of word count is when somebody handed in, say, 700 words. I've said, "What? You think that's 1,500?" So I make some rude comment to them, and they may not get a very good mark, but at least they've done the work. I rarely bother about word count, so don't worry about that at all. What I want you to worry about is the quality of your reflection.
Right. What's quality reflection? What do you want for the quality? Like, how do I show evidence of quality reflection? Let's ask the question differently.
Class, I might need some help here, but let me have a go. Yesterday, if you don't mind me saying, Heidi, I got an email where you were trying to unpack this subject with me, and we had a bit of I wrote back.
Yeah, I didn't get back to it. I went to bed. I was exhausted.
Sorry?
I didn't get back to you last night because I went to bed because I was exhausted.
Yeah. No way. But I mean, you were writing down some dot points, some questions about this subject. Now, they were your reflections so far.
Yeah.
So, your reflections, you could do another one now after this Zoom session, which we ought to stop in a second. We could do another one. You could do another reflection now. How has this subject progressed in your mind? And what are the still outstanding areas of challenge that you face? That is the beginning of your personal journal.
Okay.
The thing is, let me say it to you this way. Every teacher I believe passionately needs to be self-reflective, because otherwise they won't improve.
I know, but
They
it
are
doesn't
not
have to be written.
prepared to look at their performance and say, that wasn't the best, Jim. I could do better.
I do it all the time, and I have done it,
Great.
and I do it, but I don't
So,
write it down, and I don't
jot-
understand what I need to
Jot
write
them down. It's a discipline, I know, but that's what's required for 10%. So it's not a big
Yeah, I
deal.
know. But that's why I need to understand what it needs, what
Sure.
getting here to here is a issue.
Well, I don't think you had any issue last night. You communicated very well with me on that email.
What you can do,
Yeah, Yvette.
sorry. What you can do, Heidi, use a dictator. Like, actually just talk it out and it dictates it down, and then you could actually just look on that and you might not make any alterations. You might say, that's the thing. What I think, I've been doing this, I'm in my final year, praise the Lord. And what I know from Dr. Jim, what he's looking for, one thing that's really hard, and I struggle with it too, is the lack of clarification around what exactly do you want me to do? Tell me what I need to do and then I'll do it. And I had to really struggle with that, and I grapple with that. And so for me now, like, I currently lecture in a Bible college. For my students, when it comes to assessments, I'm like, do this, do this, do this. And I break it down so clearly, because that was a frustration that I had, which I learned through personal reflection of my own learning journey, not a teaching journey. I didn't learn as a teacher how to better communicate. I learned as a learner how I want to be communicated, and that impacted my teaching. And so I think rather than be frustrated with what do you want and what do you need me to do, dictate it out throughout this process of your journey. What are you frustrated with? You know, be frustrated with online learning. Be frustrated that you're not face-to-face. That's all personal reflection that you learn as a learner, which will impact your teaching, because you take it as, I'm frustrated with this. As a teacher, I'm going to do my best to not do that, or to work to change that, or to remember how this feels for my learner. When my learner's sending me a frustrated email, remember what that felt when that was like me. Just don't overthink it and be emotional in it, because your reflections are emotional, and it's hard to do that. In this subject, be emotional rather than academic. Sorry, Dr. Jim, for talking so much.
No, Yvette, I 100% for that. Thank you so much for articulating that. And I'm sorry I've been such a frustration to you for all these years.
Oh, no, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
But
No.
also, Dr. Jim, wouldn't you have wanted us to create a habit that we took into the classroom so that we can, have evidence when a parent comes to us and say, this is what happened, and
Sure.
you say, well, I've written it down and that's wrong.
Absolutely. In fact, I had to write down this morning an email to my boss for that very reason, about a particular student. If I don't write it down, it's gone.
Yeah.
So you have to be accountable, and that's what I did this morning. Time has gone. When are we meeting again? Can I have an indication of some indicate? I'm going to stop sharing and see a bit more of your faces. Yes, Paul.
I actually gave a suggestion to the SRC for something more generally across all the different subjects in light of the whole COVID scenario thing, that classes, in order to keep students, informed, out of confusion and engaged, rather than things slipping by as can happen with online classes, that there should be like weekly Zoom meetings that don't have to necessarily be about something concrete in particular, unless the lecturer does have something, but there should just be a weekly meeting where students and lecturer get together and say, how's it going? Any questions? What's up?
Paul, I respect that. I personally would find it very hard.
Okay, that's something else then.
Because I've never worked in weeks, and I know people who've had studies that have gone weekly. That's been absolutely vital. And so a weekly class on my Zoom, my post I put up, that would be a weekly intensive Zoom or something. But I'm an absolute fan of Z's. Zoom intensive equivalent. So I'm expecting this week to meet with you a few times.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't see that. Sorry. Yeah.
So yeah, this is a Z, the first of our Zs.
Yes. Awesome.
So, but I take your point, Paul. I do take your point, and I know there are folk like you. Understood. Today's Tuesday. Would
I can put my hand up for tomorrow.
Can we do? I mean, I'm just sorry. Just cutting to the chase. Could we do 9 o'clock tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, easy.
Yes.
I see some nods. No, not Yvette. But I see more nods than shakes. No, Adam. Adam and Yvette, why not 9 tomorrow?
I'm working the rest of the week. I start 8:30, finish at 4.
Yeah, Yvette?
Tomorrow's my college day, so I lecture from 9 till 6.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so if we met Thursday as well at 9 at this stage, you could catch up, obviously, if you had to miss it tomorrow. Look, cut to the chase. We'll do 9 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll talk about frequency after that. Is that cool?
Yeah, cool.
Jim, these meetings would be super valuable, so shame I can't be there in them, but I'll definitely be catching up with them afterwards. So,
No worries.
They'll all be recorded, yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So they'll help you out, Adam and Yvette.
Yeah. Jim, just because I'm trying to balance my kids and stuff as well, if we could actually plan the rest of the week, that I have more chance of being able to get to them if I know in advance rather than finding out a day in advance.
Yeah, I'll send out a post and we'll get something planned.
Awesome.
Sorry, Jim, just before we go, if you could check on the 322,
Yes.
we've got, instead of our journals being assessed, we have a reflection, 1,000-word reflection instead. So I think that's the difference with our one.
I'll have a look at that. Thank you, Michael.
Cool.
Look, gotta go. God bless. See you tomorrow.
Thanks, Jim.
Catch Jim.
Jim.
Bye.